We should begin where working men have begun, where America began, with the Declaration of Independence.
This can be our Declaration of Rights.
Garrison coined a phrase that we can borrow. Let us call it our Declaration of Rights and Sentiments.
These words, although stemming from a reenactment of the beginnings of the Seneca Falls Convention, reflect many of the woes that American women began to feel passionately towards during the 19th century. Women's rights as a concept, though, would only gain traction in the hearts and minds of the American people after the publication of Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of the Rights of Women.
Her book made women's rights a commonplace notion, that it was familiar to people. And they were investigating, they were discussing, they were trying to figure out what that meant. And that debate, in and of itself, is what was important, because it laid the groundwork for the future evolution and specification of women's rights.
Early women's rights leaders such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Lucretia Mott would carry the torch that was sparked by Mary Wollstonecraft into the 19th century and beyond. They would fight for the rights of not just themselves, but of the similarly oppressed and enslaved African Americans that were, just like them, drawing upon the ideas of the Declaration of Independence to justify their rightful and natural freedoms. One phrase within the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, would become the very foundation from which the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments would draw its rightful vindication in the hearts and minds of the American people, and, most importantly, of women across the nation. And so, to stress the importance of the Declaration of Independence on the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments, we visited the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia to ask one of its staff members to guide us through the 19th Amendment and Women's Rights exhibit.
One of the really cool things about the Declaration of Sentiments is that it is inspired by the Declaration of Independence. So a lot of the different ideologies and sentiments that you see within the Declaration of Independence say freedom to really just be your own person, right? To own property, no taxation without representation. All of those things are implemented within the Declaration of Sentiments. And so as you can see here, it's pretty much an entire wall numbered from 1 to 16, and it has different examples of, say, number 5, he has made her, if married, in the eye of the law, civilly dead.
When drafting the Declaration of Independence and the subsequent Constitution, Jefferson, along with his fellow founding fathers, did not deign to at all include the voices of women in the considerations, making almost half of the wills which comprised the American citizenry during the time null and void. In fact, there was only a singular famous case during which we can glimpse the voice of the revolutionary women who played their part in the foundation of our United States. Abigail Adams' plea to her husband, John Adams, to remember the ladies.
In permitting each state to determine the qualifications of voters for Congress, the Constitution implicitly endorsed laws which existed in almost every state prohibiting women from voting. Although neither the Constitution nor the Bill of Rights explicitly denied equal rights to women, it seems fair to say that the framers envisioned no role for women in the new American government.
After the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, much of the American public came to learn of the fight for women's rights that had quietly begun decades before, and began to debate extensively the ideas presented during the convention. Some, like the Lowell Courier newspaper, reacted with scorn and ridicule, fearing that soon the lords must wash the dishes, score up, be put to the tub, handle the broom, and darn stockings. Others, like Horace Greeley, editor of the most influential newspaper of the nation at the time, the New York Tribune, recognized the logic behind many of the arguments presented in the Declaration of Sentiments, but still felt uncomfortable over their implementation. Even with this mixed press, after the Seneca Falls Convention, the impact that it had on American history cannot be overstated. For women of that time, it had much the same impact as the Declaration of Independence itself did. It laid the groundwork for much of the fight for women's rights during the second half of the 19th century, continuing on towards the early 20th century, where, after the ratification of the 19th Amendment on August 18, 1920, the right to vote was guaranteed to women as it was guaranteed to men from the very foundation of our democracy on July 4, 1776, through the Declaration of Independence.